If you own biotech stocks, you've had a great year. Up 78% in 12 months. 4 times the sector average. But this rally has nothing to do with a breakthrough drug. It starts with the Iran war. 3 completely separate events are driving this. A war that's triggering pandemic flashbacks, a government policy that does the opposite of what it claims, and 2 virus headlines that dropped at the worst possible moment. They all trace back to one source. Every number in this video comes from the International Energy Agency, the Food and Drug Administration, the CDC, and peer-reviewed research published in Nature Microbiology and The Lancet. 3 headlines, 1 hidden connection. To understand why biotech is surging, you have to start with oil. In March 2026, the International Energy Agency made a statement it had never made before. The Iran war had caused the largest oil supply disruption in history, 10.1 million barrels per day, gone in a single month. The Strait of Hormuz normally carries more than 20 million barrels per day. By early April, that number had collapsed to 3.8 million, an 80% drop through the most important energy choke point on Earth. IEA member nations responded by releasing 400 million barrels from emergency reserves. Brent crude went from $72 in late February to $100 by March 12th. By the end of the quarter, it hit $118, a 64% surge in under 5 weeks. The largest quarterly price increase adjusted for inflation in data going back to 1988. But here's where it gets interesting. The market reaction wasn't just about energy. The supply shock triggered something deeper. Shortages, panic buying, hoarding, scenes that looked exactly like early 2020. And that comparison started spreading. Market narratives began drawing a direct line between the Iran war and COVID. Not because a virus was spreading, because the economic behavior was identical. Empty shelves, surging prices, a feeling that the system is breaking. When you see those patterns, your brain doesn't care whether it's a virus or a missile. It triggers the same fear response, and fear moves capital. That XBI number from the top of this video, 4 times the category average of 18.75%, didn't come from a drug breakthrough. Look at the breakdown. In 2025, biotech gained 35.88%. Rate cuts improved funding for small biotech. Patent cliffs pushed big pharma into acquisitions. AI-driven drug discovery lifted early-stage companies. That was the foundation. Then 2026 started, and the war hit. XBI is already up 11.91% year-to-date, 3 times the health sector average of 3.99%. The foundation was already there. The war turned it into an engine. There's another narrative gaining traction in certain market circles. The idea that countries not at war get hit by disease instead. No one can prove it, but money doesn't wait for proof. When enough people act on a story, the story moves the market, true or not. So you have 2 forces stacking on top of each other. Structural momentum built over 2025, and a war that's accelerating it in 2026. When both forces align, money doesn't trickle in, it floods. The Iran war didn't just create fear, it created a political problem. When energy prices surge, everything gets more expensive, including medicine. And when medicine gets more expensive 6 months before a midterm election, politicians need a solution. Fast. You saw what happened to energy prices. Gas followed. The administration needed a win on consumer costs. The answer was the Food and Drug Administration. In early 2026, FDA Commissioner Marty Makary launched a program called the Commissioner's National Priority Voucher. 9 experimental drugs were selected for the first round. The target review timeline 30 to 60 days. The normal FDA approval process takes roughly 10 months. Makary himself said he was applying lessons learned from Operation Warp Speed, the program that produced the first COVID vaccines in record time. On the surface, this sounds like a cost reduction story. More approved drugs means more competition. More competition means lower prices. That's the political narrative. But the structural reality is the opposite. When the FDA accelerates approvals, drug companies get more products to market faster. Each approval is a new way to make money. Even if margins shrink on each drug, the total number of drugs on the market grows. The pie gets bigger. Think of it this way: a bakery that gets 1 bread approved per year has limited competition but also limited growth. If suddenly that bakery can get 5 breads approved per year, each loaf faces more competition. But the bakery's total sales just went up 5 times. That's what's happening to pharma right now. The market understands this. Biotech stock prices are rising because the market sees more drugs getting approved, not fewer profits. But this isn't a blank check. The program's very first test case was a drug called Biotech, developed for a rare blood disorder. The FDA rejected it on February 13, 2026. The fast-track process does not mean automatic approval. Safety standards still apply, but the politics add a tilt. Lobbyists told Stat News that if a decision can look like a win for the president, it's more likely to go through. Not because the science changes, because when you need a good headline before November, saying yes is easier than saying no. There's one more layer. The FDA has also pushed to bring drug making back to America. Makary called out China's grip on early-stage drug testing as a security risk. He wants bold moves to cut that tie. So the chain goes like this. War pushes energy prices up. Higher energy means higher costs for everything. The White House responds by speeding up the FDA. A faster FDA means more drugs on the market. More drugs means more money for the sector. And the market prices all of that in. The policy designed to lower drug prices is structurally boosting the sector it claims to regulate. That's the paradox, and most investors have no idea it's happening. You've already seen the cicada headlines. A new COVID variant, BA.3.2, 70 to 75 mutations in the spike protein. As of April 13th, detected in 33 countries and 31 American states. A Lancet study confirmed that current vaccines are less effective against it. The CDC says cicada is still a small share of total cases, under 1%. No increase in severe disease, no surge in deaths. But that's not what matters for markets. What matters is the timing. This variant surfaced in late March, right when the Iran war had already put the world back into COVID-era panic mode. Empty shelves, price spikes, fear of system collapse, and then a real COVID variant appears. With 75 mutations and reduced vaccine protection, the market didn't need cicada to be deadly, it just needed the headline. And now the pharmaceutical industry has a new cycle ahead. Fall vaccine reformulation, updated boosters, billions of dollars in new contracts for Moderna, Pfizer, Novavax. The virus itself may not be dangerous, but the revenue it generates is real. And cicada wasn't the only headline. In the same month, the journal Nature Microbiology published a study that turned heads worldwide. Scientists in China discovered that a virus common in shrimp, crabs, and other marine animals had jumped to humans. The virus is called CMNV, covert mortality notavirus. It attacks the eyes. High pressure, bad swelling. Left alone, it can destroy the optic nerve. 70 patients over 3 years. 98.96% genetic match to aquatic strains, 49 species across 5 continents. This is not an outbreak, it's a scientific discovery. On a normal day, this paper stays in the lab. But these are not normal circumstances. A new COVID variant, a mystery virus from seafood, both in the same month, both dropping into a world already on edge from a war. Each headline alone would have faded in a day. Together, they became proof of a story the market was already telling itself, that the world is getting more dangerous, that the next pandemic could come from anywhere, and that the only sector positioned to profit from that fear is biotech. 3 events hit at the same time. None of them were connected, but the market connected them anyway, and that's the point. When the world is afraid, everything becomes fuel. Fear alone doesn't move billions of dollars in capital. Somebody has to build the infrastructure that fear drives on. And in this case, that somebody is in Washington. War created the fear. Washington built the highway. But there's one more force accelerating this. And this one wasn't planned by anyone. Step back and look at the full picture. 3 separate headlines. A war that created the largest oil disruption in history. An FDA program that boosts the sector it claims to control. And 2 virus stories that landed in the worst possible moment. They look unrelated. They're not. All 3 trace back to one source, the Iran war. The war disrupted global energy. That disruption created inflation and panic. Inflation pushed Washington to speed up drug approvals, and the panic turned virus headlines into market events. 3 paths, 1 starting point. One place the money ends up, biotech. This isn't a coincidence. This is how capital actually moves when the world breaks, through hidden chains that link headlines most people would never put together. 3 things to watch. The Strait of Hormuz. The IEA thinks Middle East oil exports will partly come back by mid-year. If that happens, the fear fades. The FDA approval rate. Every drug that gets through keeps the rally going. Every rejection chips at it. And the cicada variant. If BA 3.2 stays under 1% of cases, the headline fades. If it breaks out, fall vaccine contracts get bigger. Either way, the biotech trade stays alive until the fear dies. Biotech isn't rising because of a miracle drug. It's rising because a war created 3 forces: fear, policy, and amplified science that all converge on one sector. Understanding the structure matters more than knowing which stock to buy. Because the next time a single shock sends capital flooding in one direction, you'll recognize the pattern before it shows up on a price chart. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We're just getting started.